Hello and welcome to Horror Cult Trash Over, the show that discusses all the masterpieces and trash the pieces of genre cinema. I'm Gary.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are bringing you a very special original versus remake for this Hagsploitation Month.
Yeah, so this is our final episode of Hagsploitation. Really enjoyed it. As I knew we would. And yeah, we've got a little bit of a double bill, original versus remake, Hagsploitation. I didn't think we would have been able to fit it into the category, but I was wrong because this fits.
Before we get to that, what is new with Chris and Gary?
Yeah, good week this week.
It has been a very good week.
If you like Mad Max films.
Yes.
Because I watched all of the Mad Max sequels for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, The Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome were first time watches for me as well. Definitely honourable mentions this week.
But
is one of them your best?
They certainly are. And that's Mad Max Fury Road, which I watched for the very first time this week.
Mm-hmm.
And your top choice of the week?
My best of the week is Furiosa. I am Furiosa.
I think I got a little confused by the trailer because it's her friend at the beginning that says Furiosa, like she's in Harry Potter.
Yes. But yes, Furiosa and Mad Max Saga is my best of the week. George Miller's done it yet again. He's keeping this fantastic franchise consistent. Anya Taylor-Joy's amazing. Chris Hemsworth's amazing. The visuals are stunning. And with this, with Planet of the Apes and The Fall Guy, this is one hell of a year for blockbusters.
Yeah, really, really good. I think the problem we're having maybe is that is it doing well at the box office? Because The Fall Guy was a fantastic film.
Yeah, I mean, Furiosa has had a really good opening weekend, I believe.
Oh, that's good.
So
that's good. I also think both of those films, The Fall Guy and Furiosa, are great evidence towards there being a Oscar for stunt work.
I think so, yeah.
Like, seriously, because both of those films, without the incredible stunt work, would not be even close to as good. And that's also true for Fury Road.
Oh, God, yeah.
All the Mad Max films, let's be fair, are reliant on stunt work, and the visual and the thrilling nature of those films is based upon that stunt work. So it absolutely gives a case for the Oscar for best stunt work.
Yeah. Do you have a worst or a second best?
I don't have a worst, actually. So I suppose my second best would be Furiosa. So
yeah,
my top two of the week is Fury Road and Furiosa.
I do unfortunately have a worst of the week, and that is a film I watched on my own. Chris escaped it.
I did, thankfully.
It is The Strangers Chapter 1, aka a remake of The Strangers that was just for some reason wants to be a prequel but remakes the original beat for beat. I don't know how Rennie Harlan, director of A Nightmare on Elm Street 4 and Die Hard 2, managed to make something so fucking boring to the point I was fighting to stay awake. It's just generic. Well, it doesn't even have the decency to be generic. It's just boring. Just dull, boring. Just a really uninteresting version of The Strangers that doesn't understand why The Strangers is so effective. It just makes it a bad film. So yeah,
I saw the trailer. Well, I saw the trailer about 20 times, and the opportunity was there for me to watch it, and I just thought, no.
Yeah.
I don't think this is for me. I saw the reviews from people online that I usually agree with, and they said it was shite. So I thought, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I wanted to give it a go just because of how much I enjoyed the first two films.
Yeah, it's your kind of film.
Well, I mean, you enjoyed the first two films.
The trailer was your kind of film.
That's a little insulting, but okay.
Well, the trailer looked like the original film. You really enjoyed the original film. You introduced me to the original film.
Yeah. So I mean, but also for honorable mentions, what?
It's just, I don't know. If we put together a list of your kind of films, what would we put on there?
Not that film.
The Stranger.
The original, yes, the original.
The Liv Tyler one. Yeah, it's your kind of film.
Yes, that is. But this
that and Getting to the Greek.
That is not true. That is not true. Slanderous, and I will not have lies spread about me like this. But some honorable mentions. I finished The First to Die at the End, the book I was reading last week, and it is devastating. But now I also cannot wait for the new one later this year. Some honorable mentions that we have seen together. The Broken Hearts Club, a romantic comedy.
Yes.
It was a lovely way to spend my birthday watching that, and Frankie and Johnny back to back. Two wonderful rom-coms that I'm sure I'll be revisiting if I need a comfort film.
Well, it was Gary's birthday last week, as he mentioned, and my gift idea for you was a selection of films that had a common theme, and Gary had to guess the theme, and you got there in the end. I had to help you a little bit, but they were all films that won Best Film at the GLAAD Media Awards. Yeah, so we started with The Broken Hearts Club, which is a early 2000s gay classic. I mean, that's how it was sort of sold to me, and it definitely was. And then Frankie and Johnny, a Michelle Pfeiffer Al Pacino film that happened to be written by a gay man. So that's
she had a gay neighbour and the representation was great.
Nathan Lane continues to be the best thing about every film he's in. What a singular and wonderful talent Nathan Lane is.
I'm sure Michelle Pfeiffer will have something to say about that.
Well, I was slightly miscast. But Nathan Lane was an absolute triumph, as always.
A film that I'll be giving an honourable mention to, but Chris won't. Honeymoon in Vegas. Sarah Jessica Parker and Nicolas Cage. I wish they did more films together because their chemistry, fantastic.
I found the premise to be a little weird.
It's very weird. It's very 1990s.
And it all seemed like a love letter for Nicolas Cage to give to Elvis.
Yeah.
But I had fun with it. It was a throwaway film that cost £1, so yeah, it's fine. And
La Chimera, which is the latest, as the people in the cinema buyers described, the latest Josh O'Connor film.
Josh O'Connor film, yes. Yeah.
Which is true. But, you know, I mean, full credit should go to Alice Rohrwacher, who does an absolutely incredible job of directing this film and writing it. It's a really, really stunning piece of cinema that looked incredible on the big screen. It was made with a mix of 16mm and 35mm cameras with different aspect ratios, and it looked like an old European film, like classic European cinema.
It did, yeah, classic Italian 70s.
Yeah, really interesting themes. Just fantastic performances.
Yeah, I loved the newest Isabella Rossellini film.
Yes, yeah, it really is fantastic, and I highly recommend going to see it on the big screen.
Someone's review on Letterboxd, I've literally just seen it now. Shout out to Megan. Is literally Attenzione pickpocket. Which is hilarious. So well done, Megan. But no, highly recommend that. Do you have any more you'd like to shout out? I would like to. No, do I? No, I don't think so. I think that's about it for the week, isn't it?
Well, in that case, let's talk about Mother.
Okay.
As all the gays say. Let's start with some poll results. This doesn't happen often, but we have a case of a Lamar 50-50.
We do.
The hit single by Lamar 50-50. Yeah. Instagram could not decide which one was better. I would like to say I get it. Okay, spoiler alert is now in effect. Let's get into these films. I think the only way to discuss these is to get into the films. Now, as well as a spoiler alert, there's also a trigger warning for sexual assault, because Mother's Day tries to be a rape revenge film.
It is. It's a film that was marketed differently to what the actual film is.
Yeah.
In my opinion. So Mother's Day, I feel, gets tied into the post Friday the 13th slasher films, when really it's more of a nod to Last House on the Left, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, sort of backwards hillbilly, for want of a better term.
I mean, you say nod. It's
rape
often
revenge
described
film.
as a satire of said film.
Okay.
Which is, like, I mean, on IMDb, they've got the little subcategories now, and it is apparently a dark satire, which really makes it even more questionable. But yeah, Mother's Day 1980, our first trauma film on a podcast.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
We've never discussed the trauma film until now. Written and directed by Charles Kaufman, Lloyd's brother. He did The Secret Dreams of Mona Q, The Love in Arrangement, Ferocious Female Freedom Fighters, When Nature Calls, and Jakarta. Have you seen the poster for When Nature Calls?
I haven't, no.
It's a send-up of Gone with the Wind, but with a bear.
I see.
On the poster.
Okay.
It looks great.
Oh, yes, I see that, yeah. Oh, wow.
I would very much like to see it. It's co-written by Warren Leight, who did Before the Nickelodeon, the early cinema of Edwin S. Porter, Stuck on You, Me and Him, The Night We'd Never Met, Dear God, In Treatment, and more.
So that's Stuck on You.
The Trauma Stuck
on
You.
Stuck on You.
Sex comedy. Budget $115,000, and I can't tell you how much it made in the US, because that information is not available. But when it was released in the US without a rating, fans and critics assumed that it had surrendered its rating rights in order to avoid the stigma associated with the X rating. For more on that, listen to last week's episode. In fact, the MPAA never screened the film at all, because the producers honestly didn't care if the film got an R or an X rating, but also didn't want to spend their limited funds going through the MPAA review process. But it was refused a UK cinema certificate by the BBFC in 1980.
Of course.
And remained banned until 2015 in the UK, when it was released uncut with an 18 certificate. And it was one of the very few films in West Germany which was not only banned, but had its reels confiscated by the authorities.
Yeah, we're talking low budget here. I'm surprised this wasn't on the Video Nasties list.
Are we sure it's not on the Video Nasties list?
I don't see reference to it being on the Video Nasties
because this has everything in there that the Tories were coming for with the Video Nasties.
Absolutely.
So it would absolutely make sense if it was on there. I mean, doing a
little nose.
Doing a little nose. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like it was.
I think it was maybe potentially one of those films that just flew so under the radar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's trauma, so it's very, very early trauma as far as I know.
I mean, the some sites are actually saying that it was included.
Okay.
On there.
It would make sense.
It's kind of unclear. Yeah. But this is guerrilla filmmaking, and considering it is, I must say, with its latest transfer, the one that's on Shudder, which it seems to be different to the 88 Films one, I must say, it looks so good.
Great.
Like,
yeah.
This is a very well-made film for its budget, and if we didn't have one certain scene in the middle, I would say this is like a bunch of friends having a fun time making a film.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of awkward to say that when you have a rape scene thrown in the middle.
Yes.
And quite an extensive one at that. But yeah, there's a lot to say about it. Let's talk about our first feature presentation.
Now we'd like to show you some scenes from Charles Kaufman's Mother's Day. We'd like to show you the scene with the machete, but we can't. We'd love to show you the scene with the choker, the axe, the electric knife, but we can't because Mother's Day is too intense for television. The only way you'll ever see what happens is to see Mother's Day at a theater near you. Mother's Day contains scenes of violence which may be considered shocking. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
Yes, so during a growth opportunity graduation, a parody of Erhardt's seminars training. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, me neither.
I think it's a very 70s American kind of thing. Yeah, sorry. A couple named Terry and Charlie are offered a ride from an old woman and are driven into the woods. So it's all like, I don't know, lovey-dovey, love each other kind of, but not in a spiritual way, almost like I don't know, like a pyramid scheme kind of way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm sure if we knew what it was parodying, we'd find it very funny.
Yeah, Terry is a little judgmental. She says, "You know, after this weekend, I've truly realised how beautiful people are." Underneath,
Looking at the old woman that's driving her.
And she also looks exactly like Lady Gaga.
She looks exactly like Lady Gaga. Definitely, she looks like Lady Gaga. When Lady Gaga goes a little more natural with the makeup, not stage Gaga, off stage. When she's trying to get an Oscar.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga. But the guy who runs the whole thing is called Ernie. He says, and remember, once you go out those doors, don't stop to think about what you feel. Because once you stop to think about what you feel, you doubt what you know. And once you doubt what you know, you're going to assume you don't know it. Why? Because you don't act on it. Once you know what you know, you act on it. Which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, which I'm assuming is the point. It appears that Terry and Charlie are looking to rob the poor old lady. But they wait for her to get out the car when the car stalls. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry makes Charlie turn on the radio.
Yeah.
They're not going to rob her. They're just going to switch on the radio. But when the car does stall, two inbred killers appear and attack. Charlie is decapitated with a machete in the back seat, which looks pretty good.
It does
for
look
a very
really
low
good.
budget
Yeah.
in 1980. While Terry is brutally beaten up before being garroted by the old lady herself.
Yeah.
So it's a setup, and it's the
Yeah.
old lady that's causing all this, which is obvious from the poster and the fact that it's called Mother's Day.
Yeah.
I'm assuming
So
these are her two sons.
Yeah, I mean, this takes Hagsploitation and goes all the way with it to the point that the mother's the one who is, you know, behind everything. Now, like some films, they tend to give a bit of sympathy, like we spoke about X last week, and there was a sympathetic side to Pearl. So no, this woman is insane, and she's just willing to kill everyone or get her sons to do it for her.
Yeah, and we'll get more into that as the film goes on. So, it is revealed that the dual killers are named Ike and Adley. And, of course, they are the woman's sons. Happy Mother's Day. So it's not actually based around Mother's Day.
No.
It's the mother doing the killing.
I mean, it's a perfect title for a slasher film.
I mean, it's post Friday the 13th as well. This
post Halloween.
You know, this is around the same time as April Fool's Day.
Yeah.
So it's a good title, which plays into the slasher boom of the early 80s.
Yeah. The guy who plays Adley was so hungover from drinking the night before during one scene that he threw up on Mother.
Oh, no.
And also, Charles Kaufman said that an actress who played one of the victims and one of the actors who played one of the sons, didn't state which one out of all of them, hit it off and started dating when not filming.
Oh, lovely.
Even though his character terrorizes and brutalizes.
You find love in the weirdest of places.
You do. And they were asked to postpone their relationship until the film wrapped.
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
you know, for acting. So the victims that we're talking about are three women who have been friends since college.
Shelley Duvall, Sissy Spacek, and the other one.
Janice Rule.
Yeah.
No, they're actually Trina, Abby, and Jackie. Hi, my name is Trina, and my name is Jackie. My name's Abby. Oh my god! I think there are actually names in that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Rat Pack.
The Rat Pack. We're introduced to them as they reminisce over old photos from college during the opening credits. They were known as the Rat Pack and very famous for their pranks. So, an unspecified number of years later, the girls prepare for an annual mystery weekend trip where one of them arranges a getaway in a location unknown to the other two. So, Jackie lives in New York City and she's dealing with a real loser of a boyfriend. He's having a tough time as he's the artsy type and just can't work a 9 to 5. So, poor Jackie has to look after him and pick up the slack. Jackie leaves.
Sensitive artist.
I'm going. Sensitive artist, the artsy type. Sensitive artist. And she says, I love you. And doesn't get it back. So she's having man troubles.
Mm-hmm.
If this was Sex and the City, she would be a Carrie. With Big. When Big's not... He's certainly not the artsy type, but Pig. Oh,
wow, same thing.
Wow, Freudian slip there.
Really?
Big isn't giving as much as Carrie wishes he would. She seems to have issues with all the men in her life, as she's been very nice to the doorman as she's leaving. And she says they're having a conversation about being free for the weekend, having something to do. The doorman's like, oh, there's nothing on. You know, this is, you know, you're lucky you're getting to go away for the weekend. She says, well, if you're free for the weekend, there's a lot going on. This is New York. And he says, free for the weekend? I'll never be free as long as I'm a black man in America. Which I thought was quite funny, actually. I don't feel like it was punching down. No, I didn't. I thought it was quite fair. And probably, you know, the actor who played the doorman was like... I want to get this joke in, you know? I thought it was quite funny.
But what's really funny is how it quickly cuts to a woman singing opera.
It does, yeah.
And then another guy who's like, Rockefeller makes $1 million a day. Rockefeller makes $1 million a day.
Which... New York. This is how we see New York in a lot of films. This is pre-Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah.
Trina is a glamorous model living in Los Angeles, and she's hosting a pool party for the Hollywood elite, including an older gentleman who seems obsessed with a quote from Stanley Kubrick.
Yes, these people are all Charles Kaufman's family.
Oh, okay, all of them.
All of them.
And they're all ranging in age from young women to old men, as is probably true at pool parties in America, in Hollywood, unfortunately. So, he's obsessed with this quote about light, colour and light, whilst because this is a trauma film, looking very closely at a woman's cleavage by the pool. And Abby, who returned to Chicago after college to care for her ailing mother, who is awful. Yeah,
she says, it's about time you got home, slut. You've been whoring around while I need to take my pills at 6 o'clock. And then goes on to just tell her how awful she is for 5 minutes or so.
This is definitely a, what's his name? Norman Bates situation. But with a different gender. So Jackie it's her turn to plan, and she's planned a camping trip for them in the Deep Barrens, a forested area in rural New Jersey, which is the same setting, same state as Friday the 13th.
It is.
And it shared a lot of the same locations as Friday the 13th and Friday the 13th sequels. So after stopping at a nearby store for supplies, they arrive at their destination and begin to camp. The storekeeper gives us the obligatory, honey, you've got a big storm coming speech. He says, you'll get what's coming to you, you lesbians. And we had the... we had the subtitles on.
Yes.
And it was spelled Lezbeans.
Yes.
Lesbians. So this is the start of this film. It almost feels John Waters.
It does. And this is where it thrives. I mean, this and the third act, these two parts put together, fantastic. And I enjoyed these parts so much more this time around. It's just the middle section where it just fucks itself over.
But it's pure trauma. Trauma is over the top horror and comedy.
Yeah.
And it's slapstick, it's, parodies things, and it's a bit irreverent at times. Very very John Waters-esque. So I'm enjoying it so far. So while in the woods, they begin to explore, sitting around the campfire, telling stories and having fun by swimming and fishing. We get a flashback. So as the Rat Pack in college, they were infamous for their pranks, as we said earlier, including one we see in this flashback. A chauvinistic pig, the Dobber, is left unclothed in the middle of the baseball field.
His ass is so red. It looks like it's been spanked.
Like I don't know if there was a cut scene where he was spanked before.
But he's so red, and he's there doing his push-ups on the pitch, whilst I think We're Alone Now by Tommy James and the Shondells is playing.
Yeah,
not the Tiffany version.
No,
it didn't exist at that point.
Yeah, way before Tiffany. This. But yeah, he thinks he's gonna get the Josh Hartnett in Virgin Suicides treatment, but he doesn't. Actor playing the Dobber was 30 at the time.
Of course he was.
And it showed, to be honest. It definitely showed. Playing a college student. So, unbeknownst to the Rat Pack, back in present time, they are being stalked by Ike and Adley. They watch as the women skinny dip in the lake. And I do love how the three women are in different stages of undress.
Yeah.
Trina, the model, is fully nude. Jackie is topless. And Abby, the shy, mousy girl, is in her undergarments. She's not having a lot of nudity. And I thought that was played into their characters quite nicely. But I also think it played into how much the actresses were willing to do nudity on screen. Because, again, this is Troma, and I feel like Troma would absolutely have liked them all to have gone full frontal for the film.
Yeah. Trina, at one point, wears this high camp, glamorous nightgown with ruffles.
She does.
Oh, my God. It's amazing. Like, going to bed in that, you know you're living a sophisticated lifestyle.
She is the prissy one.
Yeah.
I do like the scene where she's saying that she chose glamour and the other girls chose grit.
Yeah.
Before she steps barefoot into a big shit in the middle of the field. So in the middle of the night, Ike and Adley attack the women, binding and gagging them. So this is right after Abby thanks the other two for being her friend and making her feel wanted and giving her life like really purpose.
Yeah.
Because her mum's so horrible to her. Like really nice moment. And this is where the mean-spiritedness begins.
Yeah, because these three characters are some of the most likable characters in slasher history.
Very likable. Cliched, I suppose.
But I feel like they kind of even go past that.
Yeah.
I feel like genuinely they're well written, well developed, well acted, and I was genuinely rooting for them. And obviously it's a horror film, so you know something bad's going to happen. But then like with how extreme it goes, it's like, I don't know, it just, especially when your film is a satire and there's comedic tones throughout. It's weird. It really just doesn't work at all.
So we'll get into it. So the three are taken by Ike and Adley to a ramshackle home in the woods where they live with their unhinged mother, whom they impress by torturing people.
Yeah, this house, by the way, was an actual house in the woods of Newton, New Jersey. And no one lived there for 15 years prior to filming. The previous owner was murdered there, and the cast and crew also discovered a dead body in the house.
Oh, wow. Like, imitating art there. So the brothers tie the women to exercise equipment inside the home, but Jackie is swiftly selected by Mother to be the brother's first victim and is taken outside. Adley rapes Jackie while Ike photographs it, and Mother looks on encouragingly. So this is where the tones are way different.
Yeah.
They're just like really up and down. So it's weird. The tones are very weird. As the two guys, Adley and Ike, they bicker and argue beforehand as if it's like a Laurel and Hardy skit.
Yeah.
But then Mother says that she wants them to perform the Shirley Temple, which involves Jackie being dressed up as a young girl, as Shirley Temple, before she is raped and photographed. And we see these Polaroids, and it icky. It really
is. You know, at the end of the day, you can. We've said so many times on this podcast that if you're going to include sexual assault in a film, you have to deal with it. But then there is the entire rape revenge subgenre.
Yes.
Which we've continuously said isn't our favourite. But at least some of those other films are fully dedicated to that purpose. This just felt like it was this is thrown in as exploitation for the sake of exploitation. Because when you have such a comedic tone before it leaves you questioning, did they think this was funny? Is this also meant to be satire on films like Last House on the Left and I Spit on Your Grave?
Yeah.
Because you do get the revenge later on, but it's just... it just goes on for so long. It's so brutal, and it's just like, why? This didn't need to be in there.
No.
This wasn't the film that is marketed to be. It's marketed just to be a slasher film in the woods. This did not need to happen.
No. It's why it was, I suppose, wildly mismarketed. Because I wouldn't consider this a slasher film of sorts, really.
I would. I feel like there's enough.
Maybe.
I feel like, yeah. I think with the characters being in the woods, picking people off, hunting them down, I think.
But that only
there's
happens,
enough.
Spoiler alert: only 3 characters. Only 3 victims actually die. So I wouldn't consider Last House on the Left.
No, that's true.
A slasher film, and it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Really, apart from Lady Gaga and her boyfriend at the beginning, that's the only thing that makes me think it's slasher territory, but totally advertised as such.
Yeah.
Which makes it so jarring, this scene. So, yeah, it is very awkward. It's very icky. It makes you feel... It's not a nice watch. Which, it's... I mean, rape revenge films aren't meant to be.
No.
But because of the tone up to this point, it's not for me. So Abby and Trina awaken the following day and plan to escape while Mother and her boys exercise outside. So the boys seem to argue over punk versus disco as they get ready for the day. So Ike says disco is stupid, and Adley says punk sucks. We get very Troma-esque humour in this scene as well, with a very prominent skid mark up Adley's white undergarments. And no washing of the hands after peeing.
Yeah.
Which, again, with what we've just seen, makes it feel like these are meant to be comedy characters.
Yeah.
Like Laurel and Hardy, the Three Stooges.
Yeah. Which is bizarre. And I think placing this straight after that last scene is a very strange choice. When they're doing the exercise and we get a training montage, and we get a very vapid variation of the Rocky theme song, which was very intentional, but they did it different enough to avoid copyright issues. And Lloyd Kaufman plays a drunk barfly in Rocky.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so the exercises include punching bag action, fruit throwing, the cutting up of dolls with a machete, and some comedic wrestling between them, bickering shit, all that stuff. What I liked during this as well, though, was they're arguing and they're having a go at each other. There's a rather tense moment as Abby lowers Trina in a sleeping bag as the 2 boys are underneath, and Abby's hands are torn to shreds trying to not get caught.
Yeah.
She's quite tense, really.
It is.
I would have just pick your tone. So inside the house, I'm going to sound like broken records, but it's true. So inside the house, Abby and Trina discover Terry and Charlie's bodies and find a brutalized Jackie hidden inside a drawer. So during this, Mother is alarmed when she spots her deformed sister Queenie, who lives in the woods and subsists on vermin, and she sees her roaming in the distance.
This whole Queenie thing is fucking ridiculous.
It's
so
pure
funny.
trauma.
Yeah, it's so funny. Especially because her name's Queenie as well.
Queenie.
It just makes it all even better.
Is she real? Is she not real? The three women...
And it has a great payoff as well.
It does actually. So the three women manage to escape and flee into the woods. As Jackie is unable to move quickly because of her injuries, Trina and Abby become separated. Trina finds the car destroyed and is chased by Ike after he disguises himself as a police officer. During all of this, Jackie does peacefully die of her wounds. So this becomes a murder, revenge film as well. So Ike eventually loses track of Trina and she reunites with Abby for revenge against Mother and the brothers. So it's an interesting it's an interesting trope of these kind of films where the mousy character and the sort of prissy character become revenge films.
Yes.
They tie their hair up, they put the bandanas on their heads, they completely change. So this trauma has changed them completely. They've done a 180 and now they're natural born killers out for revenge. And it's interesting.
Yeah. And this is where the film picks up again. But again, I feel like this is definitely poking fun at revenge films when the women magically become these warriors who can take down the people who attack them.
Do you think?
The fact that he put the bandanas on their head and gear themselves up, it feels like the parody. But I think it works. That part of it works. It's the bit in the middle that doesn't. And from this point onwards, it's a good film again, which is so frustrating because if that middle section wasn't there, or if they did it a little better and took away the sexual assault, then this could have been a really great film.
Yeah, if Trina had just been, was it Trina? No, excuse me. If Jackie had just been murdered, and then they got their revenge in that sense, it would still be the same film.
Yeah,
you could still do those parodies. You could still have the comedy within that. And I know it sounds weird to say, "Oh, well, she'd just been murdered," but that's horror. We get used to those kind of things. It doesn't mean as much as sexual assault does.
Yeah,
and that's just how it is. That's kind of always has been, and that's how we've always seen it. Is that we watch slasher films for people to get killed. Yeah, the sexual assault, it's too much. Yeah, it there's no place for it unless you're really going to deal with it. And really, effectively deal with it too. So the next morning, Abby and Trina, they arm themselves with weapons and decide to invade the cabin to avenge Jackie. Beforehand, they say their goodbyes to Jackie's corpse, propped up against a tree.
Very good bit of dialogue.
Yeah, Abby says, "Jackie, everywhere you turned in life, you got shit. Well, now we'll do the fighting back for you."
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that.
Yeah.
That's such a great aspect of these kind of films. Especially if they're getting revenge for someone else who is downtrodden, and Abby herself, it's why she's the one that says it, because she's also someone who's downtrodden, who's put up with bullshit, and she's going out and she's getting that revenge. So the girls begin to exact their revenge when Trina castrates Adley with a claw hammer to the crotch / gooch area. Taint, as they would say in America, before Abby suffocates him. When the women drag Adley's body outside, Ike leaps from a second-story window and attacks them. That was all their stunt budget.
Yeah, and that wasn't a stunt man. That was definitely the actor.
Enraged over his brother's death, Ike tries to strangle Trina before Abby pours Drano down his throat. He chases the women into the house, where Abby slams a television set on his head before Trina stabs him to death with an electric knife.
I think definitely the inspiration for Scream.
You think?
Yeah, you know Scream was going for all slasher films from the 80s, and this is...
Of course, yeah.
I think
television
definitely... really great visual. All of this is just so good, and the special effects are so good. The whole thing with the electric knife looks great. Yeah, really is fantastic. And then it just... The next scene... Yeah, we're telling the truth. This actually happens.
Yes. So with the brothers dead, the girls confront Mother in the basement where she is watching television, and she does the whole "I'm just a poor old lady" shtick.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't harm a fly, and they don't believe it for a second, and they sadistically suffocate her with a pair of inflatable breasts. And it's Abby that's doing this mainly, and as she's doing this, she starts trauma dumping about her own mother. Starts like hallucinating that this is her own mother that she's suffocating with inflatable breasts, and yeah, mother's died.
Yeah,
I'm assuming this is a trauma-esque joke. A trauma-esque. I mean, it's a trauma film.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's that kind of... Wouldn't it be kind of funny if someone was suffocated with inflatable boobs?
Yeah.
But also, I suppose maybe it's a sort of breastfeeding, nurturing, motherly sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge sort of thing. So with their vengeance complete, the two girls make a burial for Jackie and prepare to... I don't know why. Why didn't they just take her home? Like, why are they burying her in the woods?
It's a low-budget slasher. It's okay.
They bury Jackie in the woods and prepare to leave the woods before they are suddenly attacked by Queenie, who leaps at them from behind the bushes, looking like...
A caveman.
A caveman.
Trog.
It's
stupid.
What was the Legend of Boggy Creek?
And it's in the trailer. It's so annoying that it's in the trailer. Like, it's like, come on. This is the big surprise.
Yeah.
This is your hand out of the
Queen's
grave.
real.
This is your Jason Voorhees behind the boat. Oh my god, it's camp. It's funny. It's just stupid.
It's a silliness,
but it's a great ending. It really is. Kind of made me wish you had a bit of Queenie in the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the original.
So that is the original Mother's Day from 1980, and my overall opinion is, like in Last House on the Left, when the soundtrack feels really out of place. It's kind of like the same with the comedy in this, where the individual elements aren't that bad. So like the comedy, it's not bad comedy.
No, the comedy is the best part about it.
Yeah, and the tenser scenes aren't bad. And it's, you know, it's uncomfortable to watch. Yeah. And that's the point, I'm assuming. Yeah. And the point is that it's uncomfortable. But together they just don't mesh.
They don't. No.
It's Hagsploitation as well as Hagsploitation. And I do think it's very interesting that in so many Hagsploitation films, it's an older woman in a big deserted mansion. Yeah. Usually a very rich woman who hasn't been able to hold down a man. Yeah. All that business. Whereas this is a poor woman. Yeah. And it's never really explained why.
No, it's just
she raised her kids like that.
Just likes...
She's just a bad mother.
People. Yeah.
She just likes killing people and like watching her sons kill people. Yeah. Which I think is interesting. There's no I don't feel there's a moral lesson to be learnt here. It's Hagsploitation, but it's not saying if you don't find a man by the age of 55, this is how you'll turn out. Yeah. Or it's not, she isn't a secret lesbian or anything like that. It's just she's just a crazy old lady.
Yeah. And the thing is, I when I first watched this film many years ago, I hated it. I really thought it was so boring and tedious. And by the end of this rewatch, I could say I liked it. I think it was better this time around. But there's just so much there that gets in the way of it being so much better. Like, it had so much potential there, and it just completely ruins it in that middle act.
I wish it would have just been a slasher film. I wish it was exactly how it was advertised.
Yeah.
And it was just a slasher film, and it was mother and her sons and Queenie, and there were more kills. There were more slasher-esque kills. I'm loving the esque today.
I know, yeah.
Where does this come from? But yeah, I wish it would have just played up to what it told us it was going to be. Because the other parts I feel just drag it down. And I did enjoy it more on this watch. I have to say that. There were a few maybe boring, tedious
Yeah,
bits.
again, in the middle. That middle, that second act.
But yeah, overall I feel, and this might be a little spoiler, I feel like a few of the elements that I enjoyed in this film actually were present in the remake.
Yeah.
Which we shall talk about now.
Yes, Mother's Day 2010, also released by Troma. This has probably the most serious film released by Troma, maybe, ever.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I mean, this is a remake, obviously, of the 1980 film, but also loosely inspired by what is referred to as the Wichita Massacre, a series of robberies and murders that occurred in December 2000. And originally the director and the writer had intended to make a film entitled Wichita, based on the case, and the script had already been written. However, they couldn't find any studio willing to take that project on, so they were asked to direct the Mother's Day remake. They initially turned it down. The director was a fan of the original film, but he didn't know what he could do with it, so he decided to take on the Wichita project, but put the ideas within the Mother's Day remake.
Yeah, because the original falsely advertised as a slasher film. This also falsely advertised as a slasher film.
I think this is more slasher.
This is, in my opinion, a oh my god, what's that genre?
Torture porn. Yeah.
Not torture porn. No.
Okay, because I would say this is torture porn.
No, Funny Games, The Strangers,
Home Invasion.
Home Invasion. Excuse me, this is a home invasion film.
But it's only home invasion because it takes the plot of the original and sets it in a home. So yeah, it is. That makes it a home invasion.
This is people. Yeah, this is a home invasion film.
Yeah.
More than, in my opinion, more than a slasher film.
Yeah. I think it's got a few subgenres in there. Hagsploitation, it still is absolutely.
Way more glamorous than the original.
Younger as
like
well.
half the age.
But I think there's an argument for this to be torture porn also, which makes sense because it was released as torture porn was dying out and directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, who did Saw 2, 3, 4, and Spiral. He also did Repo, The Genetic Opera, 666, The Prophecy, The Devil's Carnival, Devil in the Woods, Tales of Halloween, and more. And it was written by Scott Millam, and the only other film he did was Submerged. Made on a budget of $11 million, and it made $863,044 at the box office. So it was a flop.
No Mother's Day 2.
No, and that's a shame because it sets it up for a really good sequel.
It does actually. Yeah. Spoiler alert. The ending's rather open.
Yeah.
But
Jamie King. She has a thing about starring in horror remakes from 80s slasher films where her husband cheats on her.
Yeah.
There's a scene in which a Valentine's card is found between him and the woman he's cheating with, and they both have endings left wide open but never received a sequel. That's a very specific subgenre, but it exists.
Yes.
2 films in it. Yeah.
If I remembered more of Silent Night, I'm sure we could have put that in there as well.
Maybe. But this I would put in the category with Prom Night and My Bloody Valentine. And When a Stranger Calls, of saying, what a random as fuck remake.
Yeah.
Like, everything was remade, obviously, within this time period between 2000 and 2010. But this is fucking random. Considering the original is just a trauma film that not a lot of people had heard of. It wasn't even fucking released in the UK until 5 years after this.
No, no. But I feel like by 2010 they had exhausted all the remake potentials. I'm assuming, and this might be a topic for another time, but I'm assuming it took a while to get the rights to A Nightmare on Elm Street. Because that was 2010.
Same year, yeah.
But that was way, down the line compared to the others. So I'm just assuming it took them a while to get the rights to that one. Because that would have been one of the first, really.
Oh, you had to remind me.
Yeah. But we're at the tail end here.
Yeah. Yeah. And now when we get them, they're every now and then, and they're usually really good. Except Castle Freak. Let's talk about our second feature presentation.
Punishment is never easy. It hurts you more than it hurts them.
Why do you look so scared?
It's Mom.
Run him down.
No! I'm proud of my boys. They never forget their mama.
Why are you doing this?
Life isn't always fair, my dear.
If you hurt any more of my friends.
You've got gumption. Good for you.
So an unknown woman enters a maternity ward and, with help from an accomplice, steals a newborn baby. Terry, one of the guards, catches them in the act, but ends up being stabbed to death. And immediately, it's fucking gory, it's brutal, and it does that thing that all the remakes from this era were obsessed with doing, where they had to put the backstory in there. They had to put it in there, but this is still quite ambiguous with it. We see it happening. We don't, like the original, we don't know why.
No.
We don't know why. Until later on, when it is kind of explained that she can't have kids.
Yes.
Or it's, allured to. It's not stated clearly, but it's hinted at. Beth So Happy is having a birthday party for her husband Daniel So Happy, with the help of their friends, married couple Trayshawn and Gina Jackson, Dave Lowe and his fiancée Annette Langston, George Barnum and his girlfriend Melissa McGuire, not Melizzy McGuire, and Daniel's co-worker and friend Julie Ross. Julie Ross. Immediately, it's 2010. We need more victims. We need a bigger body count. And that is exactly what we get here.
Yes. More characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. For better or worse, more characters.
Yeah. The news reports a tornado is heading their way. Daniel assures his guests that the basement is tornado-proof, with tornado-proof windows.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
These are rich people. And there could be something said here for themes of different classes clashing, considering it was, by the sounds of it, the place was a shithole when mother and her kids had the place. But these rich people came in and took it from them.
Gentrification, I think to call it. And
it's about to backfire. So after a bank robbery gone wrong, three brothers, eldest and leader Ike, irrational and irresponsible Adley, and Johnny, who has been badly injured, are on the run from the law. Again, more characters on the antagonist side of things as well, because we need a bigger body count. I was surprised when I first watched this how quickly it gets going. Like, this is a mile a minute film, and it's like nearly 2 hours, but it is go constantly throughout. It rarely slows down.
No.
They reach their mother's house only to find it unrecognizable. There's live, laugh, love signs. Any home is a happy home. Home is where the heart is.
Potpourri.
Yeah, it's pure house catalogue pictures. Yeah.
The house.
The whitest of the white.
Yeah. House doctor. Do you remember that show?
No.
Do you not remember the House Doctor?
No.
I used to love it. She used to go into people's houses. They were trying to sell their houses. She was an American woman, but a British TV show. And she definitely gave sort of Judge Judy energy. And she'd go into these houses, and it would be mainly people who they were maximalists, so they had too much on show, or they had lots of pets and lots of animals, and they couldn't sell these houses. And she would literally go in and just paint the whole thing beige. And her big thing was that neutral colours, sell a house, neutral colours, sell a house. And at the end, the house would sell, and she'd go, that's because it's beige.
That she definitely she teamed up with Claire Sweeney, and they went there. They gave it a makeover.
60-minute makeover.
They gave it a 60-minute makeover to the whitest house you could find, and yeah, you can smell the Starbucks avocado and prosecco from here.
Yeah. Oh, Mrs. Hinch is the one. She got famous on Instagram because I think she had like kids, but everything was white and beige and grey, and people were like, how do you keep your house clean? And so she sells all this cleaning product.
This house certainly isn't kept clean for long. It's soon covered in blood.
Yes.
Daniel and Beth hear a noise upstairs, and they leave the basement party only to find the brothers holding them hostage within their home at gunpoint. One of the brothers says, "What's your name?" And he says, "Daniel so happy." And it's like, "You don't look so happy to me."
Hey.
You know, the screenwriter gave himself a pat on the back when he wrote that.
Do you think is that a real surname, So Happy?
Probably, yeah.
Good.
The brothers are fuming that there are fruity pebbles in the house. There's fruity pebbles in here, man. Fruity pebbles.
That's cereal.
Oh.
Fruity Pebbles are cereal.
Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
I thought they were being homophobic.
No.
I thought they had like a collection of stones and they were saying no fruity.
No, Fruity Pebbles is cereal, but I think it's like what's his name? Fred Flintstone. Fruity Pebbles.
There you go then. I like the film even more. It wasn't homophobic.
Did you really think Fruity
Yes.
Pebbles?
I was going to say, we ain't got none of those. Terrified, Beth offers the brothers the help of George, a doctor who begins to tend to Johnny's injuries. Previous star of the podcast, Sean Ashmore from Anderson Falls.
And
Iceman in X-Men.
But not Lock and Key.
Not Lock and Key. It's an inside joke that no one will get.
I know.
We may have mentioned it actually on the Anderson Falls episode, so go back and listen.
Yeah.
And, yes. Adley forces Beth and Daniel downstairs, trapping all the partygoers in the basement at gunpoint. Ike calls his sister Lydia, because there's now another member of the family, who informs him that she and their mother lost the house and will be on their way to help the boys. And it's scary. It's scary to thought that these people are just there with this house, and these people have gone there because they thought it was their own. And yeah, just because they were there, kind of like the strangers.
Very much like the strangers. And there's a conversation later on which reiterates that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. A short time later, an RV arrives with Lydia and Mother, with Lydia rushing to Johnny's side, showing she only has compassion for him. Mother's entrance is glamorous as she steps out of the RV, and we see her from her feet.
We do. We get a little pan.
Fancy shoes on.
From the shoes to the face. Rebecca De Mornay.
Yes, Finch's mum from American Pie.
Is it? Oh, yeah, of course. Most famously, Risky Business.
Yeah, Hand That Rocks the Cradle.
And Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Oh, okay. So quite a similar...
Yeah.
So this isn't completely out there for Rebecca De Mornay.
No, but she does a fucking great job. Yeah.
She does, because this entrance, I mean, I thought it was quite camp.
Yeah.
No camp whatsoever for the rest of the film.
No.
With this performance.
No, not at all. She plays it straight and really
no Fruity Pebbles in this performance.
No, absolutely not. She, like, when she's with her son, she's crying and there are actual tears there. And she seems so nice at first. She becomes angry at Ike for losing the emergency phone. They used to contact one another, telling him she was unable to alert him of losing the house. And realizing the gravity of the situation, she agrees to sneak over the border into Canada. However, it will cost $10,000. And she learns that her sons have been sending money to the house, which she never received, and she heads to the basement, where she's initially nice to the hostages, explaining to them that no one has to get hurt. She then takes their cell phones, bank cards, PIN numbers of the others, and makes Ike take Beth to a cash machine to collect the money. After she confronts Beth and Daniel about the money, and they both deny about knowing anything about it at all.
Yeah, so Mother says, Adley, this is unacceptable. I swear, sometimes you boys are just little savages. She's definitely playing a role. I don't think anyone's buying it. But she's definitely in her own head. She thinks that she's this nice mother raising nice sons.
Yeah.
Who just kind of have to do bad things to get by the law of nature.
Yeah.
I think.
She believes Beth that she doesn't know anything about the money. However, she has Adley and Ike torture Daniel for information by smashing his hand in with a pool ball, and it genuinely looks disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
He's got bones sticking out of his hand. The practical effects are gnarly. It's so good. But yeah, just a really, really brutal scene.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And just then, Melissa attempts to escape, only to be shot by Adley. Mother strikes him for his behaviour and informs George to keep Johnny alive or they will all die, with Lydia told to help George and Johnny.
Yeah, so she strikes him for hitting a woman who was in net.
Not killing.
Not for killing Melissa, as that was an act of defence.
Yeah.
So it's doing what's necessary and treading over people when necessary, but don't go out of your way to be horrible to them. Right.
Ike and Beth dispose of Melissa's body behind a dumpster before heading to the ATM. While at the ATM, Beth and Ike encounter two party girls, Vicky Rice and Jenna Luther. Amazing names, by the way. They both have big hoop energy going on. They're definitely party girls.
They are.
They realise that Ike has a gun, and he tells them to kill each other with a knife that he gives them. One stabs the other, and he kills the surviving one. And this is very much where it's like, you're definitely the director of some sort of films.
Yes. Yeah, they're very rude, and one of them professes to driving better when drunk. So we get the impression they kind of deserved it.
Yeah.
These are two throwaway characters who definitely deserved not the way, but they deserve to be punished for their drink driving.
I think this might be the scene, but during the filming of a scene that involved guns, the actors who pulled over and held at were pulled over and held at gunpoint by police, who mistook them for people who actually robbed a bank not far from where they were filming.
Oh wow!
But then they all had a laugh about it after realising it was a big misunderstanding.
Life imitating art again.
Melissa is found to be alive by two sanitation workers who rush her to a hospital. While back at the house, George realises Mother has been lying to Lydia about a rare skin condition and has been giving her pills filled with sugar rather than actual medication.
Yeah, so she told Lydia that she had the condition to make her cover herself up, pretty much head to toe, apart from her face, and to shield her from lecherous boys.
Yeah.
So it's definitely playing into, and this is something I don't think was too clear in the original film, but she is very conservative.
Yeah.
And she thinks she's doing the right thing, slightly righteous. I mean, she doesn't start spouting homophobic shit or anything like that. But the idea is that she's a conservative woman trying to raise her children in a conservative way while still murdering people for money.
Yeah.
There we go.
A police officer arrives after the three suspects of the bank robbery are identified as the old residents of the house, but Daniel makes him leave, assuring him that everything is fine and alerting Mother of Daniel's lying skills in the process. She further becomes suspicious after Lydia discovers a Valentine's card from Daniel to Julie, as well as photographs and newspaper articles of a child killed in a car accident. Yeah, so Jamie King really needs to sort of shit out and find better men.
She does.
But this scene with the police officer is really intense, and it's kind of frustrating because he's like, if there's something you can't tell me, then blink twice. I was like, you actually probably could have got away with that without them seeing.
To a certain degree, but then he is, and this is where it works for the film. Is Beth will always be with Ike,
Yeah.
throughout the film until sort of the very end after shit's hit the fan anyway. So the idea is that anyone within the house, yes, okay, they can make themselves safe if they happen to try, and and they're successful. But there's also, Ike will absolutely kill Beth,
Mhm.
and that's the end of her. So yeah, it's very much Jodie Foster in Panic Room.
Yeah.
That scene.
Yeah, that's true. Lydia tells George about Queenie, a woman who her mother tells her lives behind their house in the woods and kills children. George tells her that Queenie doesn't exist, and I honestly wish he was wrong. I wish Queenie showed up in this film. Could you imagine?
It does make me laugh. I like how, obviously with the character names, but a few bits are maybe a little shoehorned in to reference the original film. Like, it's funny, it makes me laugh, but it was completely unnecessary to mention Queenie.
It's a shame we didn't get a sequel, because I feel like Queenie would have showed up if we did. Johnny, now in critical condition, has to be resuscitated by Lydia, and George, when he goes into cardiac arrest, telling his mother that he doesn't want to die a virgin. So mother forces Trayshawn and Dave to fight over which one of their partners will be forced to have sex with Johnny. George tries to convince Lydia to help his friends, but doesn't quite work out for him. Dave loses after their little fight, and Annette is forced upstairs. And Lydia says, "Mama, you always said it should be the woman's choice." To which she says, "This is the woman's choice, mine."
Yes. Very, and I think it's interesting as well, because it is bringing those political aspects into it. Mother could be seen as a conservative government, a Republican government, who say it should be a woman's right, but we'll still tell her what to do. A woman's right to choose, as long as she's choosing what we want her to choose.
Yes. Bev and Ike travel to Trayshawn's laundromat business to take money out of the safe, where Beth attempts to escape but fails. Back at the house, Johnny's injuries prove too severe to rape Annette, and she is forced back into the basement by Adley. So thankfully, we don't get a rape scene in this film.
We don't, and the threat of it is...
It's scary enough.
It's scary enough. It is enough. It's a very uncomfortable scene. Particularly when Mother starts to undo Johnny's genes for him. It's an uncomfortable scene in an uncomfortable film that's meant to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So
just
I
one
think
tone.
it works.
It's just one tone throughout. Dave attacks Adley, resulting in Adley accidentally shooting Dave in the face, killing him. And this is a fucking great effect.
It is.
Like, it is really, really gruesome. And his face is flapping all over the place. And you don't see the headshot, but the after effects are enough.
I do feel bad for old Daniel. Is it Daniel? No, Dave. I'm going to admit I'm not great with names in film, and there's a lot of characters in this film, so apologies. Poor Dave. He also got his hair transplant ripped off.
He did
earlier in the film as well, so he had a terrible time. Luckily, he got barely any character development, so
Gina,
or I would have cared about him. Instead of look at that gnarly flapping of his face.
Gina takes this opportunity to try to escape. However, is brought back to the house by Daniel in order to save Beth. And when she's outside, she's like, "Daniel, not all of us are going to make it. That's just a fact. Yes, people are going to die."
Very Vanessa Hudgens of you, Gina.
But Gina's great, and you know what? She's speaking sense.
She
Bitch,
is.
people are going to die either way.
Yeah.
Like, she's on her way to go and get help.
She knows that this family who have killed, they are probably going to kill again. It's no matter what.
Yeah.
As if they're going to leave these witnesses for when they escape. It's just how it is. And Daniel, quite selfishly, kind of probably thinks, well, it's probably not going to be him or Beth, so come back.
Yeah.
Because if Gina goes, then Gina's definitely saved.
Yeah.
And probably Beth would be the one to be killed.
Beth and Ike encounter the same police officer from earlier, who Ike then shoots before trying to force Beth to run him over, but instead she crashes and flips the car.
Yes.
Definitely a bigger budget than the original. In the basement, Mother informs Gina that disobedience has consequences before pouring boiling water all over Trayshawn.
Yeah, Mother says, what's the point of having ears if you're not going to listen?
Yeah.
And water straight from the kettle is poured into Trayshawn's ears.
Yes.
Again, very torture porny.
Yeah.
Very uncomfortable to watch. Which is the point.
After the car crash, the cop goes over to the car and Ike kills him. Mother then attempts to find her money by burning the photographs of the boy revealed to be Daniel and Beth's deceased son. So, again, it's very mean-spirited like the original as well. Mother then sets Julie's hair on fire, but extinguishes it when she realizes Daniel is telling the truth about the money. Mother leaves the basement before the group manage to arm themselves with knives.
Yeah, so Mother says, let that be a lesson to all of us. Marriage is sacred.
Yes.
Right.
They lure Adley into the basement and stab him to death.
Yeah, Gina saves the day yet again.
Yeah.
By melting the hand ties. So they were all sort of tied up with, I don't know, like cellophane kind of thing. So she manages to melt that in the fireplace, obviously hurting herself in the process. And it's remembered that George told them to open the gold gift box, which probably maybe have opened a little sooner, if I'm remembering correctly. But anyway, and it's some beautiful knives that George had bought Daniel for his birthday, very conveniently, but
put to great use.
Absolutely,
including a stab to the dick.
A stab to the dick. So another little reference, I feel, to the original.
Trayshawn, now deaf and having difficulty seeing, takes Adley's gun and goes upstairs. Gina follows him, startling him, and causes him to shoot her in the side. And it was I found it genuinely shocking.
I did. It might be a little spoiler for later, but I actually gasped. And that's male bravado for you, getting people hurt. He shouldn't have had the gun in the first place.
No.
Gina is our hero, our heroine in this story, and he ruined it.
Yeah. But as he attempts to help his wife, Mother shoots him in the back and kills him. Mother discovers Adley's body and phones Ike before forcing Beth to listen to her shoot Daniel. No great loss. But
adulterer. She says that as she's shooting him.
Annette and Julie are then taken upstairs and tied up, and at the hospital, Melissa regains consciousness and alerts authorities to the house. George confronts Mother, telling her that none of her kids look like one another and look nothing like her. Mother, enraged, threatens to kill him, but Lydia convinces her that they still need George to help Johnny.
This is what makes me laugh about films, is that he does say, none of you kids look like you, none of you kids look like each other. But you absolutely would have had those actors in another film as siblings, and no one would have questioned it.
It's very useful here.
Yeah.
I actually thought two of them did look like each other. I thought Ike and Adley didn't look too dissimilar.
I mean, they probably look as similar as they did in the original film. But actually more similar than they did in the original film. Also, I did laugh because I actually forgot George was upstairs. I forgot. He was a character.
The one who probably cost the most to be there.
Yeah.
Ike and Beth then burst through the front door with the money. Ike heads downstairs to mourn his loss, and Mother instructs him, Lydia, and George to take Johnny to the RV while she has a chat with the ladies. Bit of a kiki.
Darlings. Charlotte Tilbury. Charlotte Tilbury. Yeah. Darlings. I got news for you.
Inside the RV, Johnny, hoping to please his mother and older brother, shoots George in spite of Lydia's pleas to let him live. Mother reveals to Julie and Annette that Beth was the one who hid the money and is the one responsible for all the deaths. And it's shocking. You didn't expect Beth to be hiding this money, but yes, she admits she was hiding it for the baby that she's expecting.
Yeah, and we are sat here sort of like, oh God, it's all Beth's fault. Well, no, it's not really. It's all the murderer's fault. The people murdering people, shooting people. It's all kind of their fault.
Yeah.
Like, Beth is somewhere near the top, but everyone's acting as if she's right at the top.
Well, she also reveals that she knew Daniel was cheating on her with Julie and wanted to leave him. And she should have.
She should have.
Mother forces Beth to take a pregnancy test to prove it before Beth knocks her unconscious with a toilet lid.
Yeah, little unnecessary. Mother flicking a bit of piss off of the test.
Realism.
She gives it a little shake.
Beth unties Julie, who is shot in the head by Ike whilst trying to escape the house, and Annette, who hides with Beth in the garage. They are overpowered by Ike, who then dies after they shoot him with a nail gun, and like the original, they push a TV onto him.
Yeah, well, as well, they stab him repeatedly. Yeah. They pour bleach or whatever it is into his mouth, down his throat, and drop a TV on his head.
Annette escapes to the neighbours whilst Beth fights with Mother in the house. Beth is knocked unconscious and Mother sets fire to the house. However, when she wakes up and overpowers Mother, hitting her with a wooden chopping board before escaping the house along with Gina, who has survived her injuries.
Yes. Interestingly, Mother berates Beth and her lack of strength for, number one, allowing her son to die via neglect, not satisfying her husband enough so that he played away, and also not being strong enough to leave her husband.
Yeah.
Before that point. And I think it's an interesting, and it's a film made by men, but it's an interesting take on sort of victim blaming to a certain extent.
Oh, yeah.
And how sometimes we see online where sometimes women are the harshest critics to each other. And that's not... I hope that doesn't sound like a sweeping generalization, because it's not meant to be. But it is sometimes, you would think that a woman would understand. And I think in the context of the political climate and, you know, conservative women, like Sarah Palin and such, in America, and and we have it here in the UK as well, you know, Liz Truss is going around the fucking world spouting her bullshit. Yeah. And it's kind of women not having each other's backs and sort of in that sense. And I think it's very interesting. Yeah. And I feel deliberate.
I think so.
You know, that sort of interpretation of the mother character as that conservative woman who isn't for women. You know, she treats her daughter terribly. Yeah. She's always supporting her sons who do terrible things. She spouts conservative stuff about marriage being sacred whilst stealing babies and robbing and all that awful stuff. Yeah.
And months later, a very pregnant Beth goes into labour and is taken to the hospital by Annette, Gina and Melissa. That night, Beth wakes up to the emergency alarms going off in the maternity ward. She gets up to go and check on her baby, but the baby is missing. And the film ends with Lydia, Johnny, and Mother leaving the country in the RV with Beth's baby. What a dark ending, especially now we didn't get a sequel as well. Yeah. So that's just it. That's just how it ends.
It is a bit... I do think maybe it's a little much. And also, like, it kind of goes against the Lydia character. I thought she was...
But I suppose there's no escape for her.
No, but she's kind of smiling and laughing whilst driving the RV. So I wonder what that means in terms of her character. But
what it means
is
a
memorable ending.
Yeah, what it means is they thought they were getting a sequel.
Absolutely.
But They didn't.
They didn't. No.
But yeah,
No.
that's the Mother's Day remake.
The Mother's Day remake. It takes the subject matter, of the controlling mother, using her children to that sense, and pretending to be this nice older woman. It takes that and makes it a lot more serious than the first film.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciated that. It had a tone, it stuck to the tone, and I thought it was a good film, like really good. I mean, it had its maybe a few too many characters for me. Got a little muddled at times, but it kept going, it kept a good pace, which I appreciated, and I would recommend.
Yeah, it shows what you should do with a remake, and it's remaking a film that needed a remake.
Yeah,
which is a big difference to a lot of films.
It's a difficult one because it doesn't actually really feel like a remake.
No,
because the subject matter, yes, okay, so the character of Mother, right. But I feel like the other aspects are so different to the original film that you get your little references in there, you have the names. But like I said earlier, the first film, Rape Revenge, horror film, and this one I thought was a home invasion. Why do I struggle with that? A home invasion thriller, really, with a lot of sort of over the top gore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, let's do some comparisons. Cinematography, scares, kills, and soundtrack. Now, the original, I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah,
I really do. And this new transfer of it, it looks like it was filmed yesterday.
It really looked great, and I like the it. I feel like if you're gonna do like a backwards WOODS horror film, I like it to look like one.
Yeah.
And the transfer's great, but it's guerrilla filmmaking. It's real low budget.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that aesthetic.
Whereas I think the remake looks perhaps a little too polished for a film that is as brutal as it is.
Yeah. It has that sleek look that so many films there. I mean, the poster as well. I know we're not talking about posters, but the poster has that sleek horror look. You know which one. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. All the films kind of look the same around that point.
Yeah. But the original, I wouldn't say it's scary. I'd say it's more uncomfortable than scary. I think the gore is great. The practical effects are really good for such a small budget. And I really like the score as well. I think there's some good use of I Think We're Alone Now as well.
Yeah. I think the kills were good. I mean, give me a decapitation in a horror film. I'm like, great, And they weren't as many, but I do think in the remake, the gore makes it stand out.
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, it's really, really brutal, but brutal without being exploitative, and it's very intense. There's more of an argument to put forward for it being scary than the original, and I think the score was surprisingly good in places, and there's some good needle drops in there.
There was some good needle drops of was it Neon Trees Animal, which I do remember from 2010. The score itself, I suppose.
You thought it was a song at one point.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, I did a little bit, yeah. But I don't think either too memorable, but I do like I Think We're Alone Now needle drop.
Yeah.
So
I think for cinematography, I would give it to the original.
Yes, I agree.
For scares and kills, I'd give it to the remake.
Absolutely.
And soundtrack, I'd give it to the original. I like the synth score.
Yeah, I'd give it to the original too.
So characters in the original, we have Mother, played by Beatrice Pons, and played by Rebecca De Mornay in 2010. I like how zany Beatrice Pons is.
Yeah.
And it helps with the satire aspects of it. But, I mean, Rebecca De Mornay gave a performance.
She really was fantastic. I was expecting camp from Rebecca De Mornay. I thought we were going to be sitting here saying, "Oh my god, she's high camp. She's so over the top." And it's nothing of the sort.
No.
She really gives a great performance. She's extremely creepy, but she does the sort of menacing conservative woman like really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it to her for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean,
not that I didn't enjoy the original. Like, I feel like there was a little less to the character. But I did appreciate was it a sort of like neon green boa that she had?
Yeah,
I did appreciate that. Her death scene was more memorable as well.
That's true.
But Rebecca De Mornay, I feel like she really hit it out the park.
She did. We have Ike Adley, played by Frederick Coffin and Michael McCleary in 1980, and played by Patrick John Pfluger and Warren Cole in 2010. So they are more wacky and comedic in the original, whereas in 2010 they're a little more going for intimidating and scary. And Warren Cole kind of tries to channel that sort of wackiness, but in a more serious way. It's more psychotic, whereas Patrick John Pfluger is a little more reserved, I found.
Yeah. I found with the original, it's that Laurel and Hardy shtick, the Three Stooges. It's we do this because we're not clever enough to make any decisions for ourselves, sort of thing. Whereas I found with the remake, it was too loose cannons.
Yeah.
It was too unpredictable characters, which made it a lot scarier for me and more intense.
Yeah.
And they definitely played into that. And, you know, one of the big things I enjoyed about the film is that it's an intense film.
Yeah.
And they were absolutely part of that.
Yeah. So I would give it to the remake.
Yeah, absolutely.
And finally, the main protagonists. I've grouped them together. So we have Tiana Pierce, Nancy Hendrickson, and Deborah Luce in 1980. And in a remake, we have Jamie King, Brianna Evergen, Frank Grillo, Lisa Marcos, Lyric Bent, Tom Napo, Candice McClure, JC Russo, and Sean Ashmore. Now, I think with this one, I preferred the original because there was less of them. They were better developed, and they were genuinely, this time around, it really shocked me just how likable they were.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there were 3 interesting characters. Okay, maybe based a little on stereotypes, but that's fine. You know, they had a bit of backstory. I liked the performances. I feel they had great chemistry together as well, which really helped. Yeah. And I just found in the remake, a lot of them were there for sort of fodder. Yeah,
they were just there to get kills. And I think everyone did a good performance. But yeah, they were definitely just disposable.
They didn't really feel like friends.
No.
Either. They didn't have much chemistry together. There were too many of them. I struggled to remember a few at times. And yeah, I get why they existed, but the original for me.
And for me as well. And finally, biggest queen. I'm going to give it to Trina in the original.
Okay,
glamorous model Trina.
Yeah. Well, we're rhyming. Yeah. So I'm actually going with Gina. Trina and Gina.
Yeah. Biggest gasp, it's Trayshawn shooting Gina in the remake.
Absolutely.
Best dialogue, it's Gina. Daniel, not all of us are going to make it. That's just a fact.
I did appreciate that. I went with Jackie, everywhere you turned in life, you got shit. Well, now we'll do the fighting back for you. I was like, yes.
And that's camp. I mean, for me, it has to go to Trina and Abby's suffocating mother with an inflatable pair of boobs in the original.
I went with Trina's Hollywood pool party.
Yeah.
I struggled with camp, actually.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Yeah. It was definitely going to go to the original because I don't feel...
There's no camp.
No camp.
But yeah, so the winner is the remake.
Ooh.
Very close on those points, but It is the remake, and that does match. I'm sure how we both feel about the two films.
I agree.
Yeah, a rare instance. It doesn't always happen, but in this case, it's a necessary remake. Ratings, I give the original 6 lesbians out of 10.
Ooh. I give the original 4 lesbians out of 10.
And I give the remake, back when I thought it was funny, 8 fruity pebbles out of 10.
There we go. I give the remake 7 pregnancy test piss flicks out of 10.
You can find the original on DVD, Blu-ray, video on demand, and Shudder, and you can find the remake on DVD, Blu-ray, and video on demand. If you enjoyed the original, I recommend checking out the original Last House on the Left.
Yes, completely agree with that. And if you enjoyed the original, I recommend checking out the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yes.
And if you're listening to us and you haven't checked out the Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Well, if we recommended it
what
a
are
few
you
times
doing?
Now. Yeah. If you enjoyed the remake, I recommend checking out the Bruce Willis film Hostage. It's very similar.
Is it a good film?
It's a good film, yeah.
Nice. If you enjoyed the remake, I recommend watching The Strangers.
Yes.
Less gory, but home invasion.
The original Strangers, not Chapter 1.
Yes, of course.
We are Horror Cult Trash over on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Horror Cult Trash on Twitter. I'm Gaz92 on Letterboxd, Gazmo205 on Instagram, and GazCruise92 on Twitter.
I am Chris Barker823 on Instagram and Letterboxd.
And we're getting closer and closer to this year's Gasp Horror Film Festival that we host every year. And what are you waiting for? Go get your tickets. There's still a small number left, and it's going to be great. We are Gasp Horror Fest across all social media. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, like a follow on everything else. Now, Hagsploitation Month has come to an end. It's time to switch over to Pride Month.
Yes. Fruity Pebbles Month.
Fruity Pebbles Month. Usually, and I'll probably repeat this next week, usually we would have a guest on every episode during Pride Month, but we've been busy Fruity Pebbles.
We have.
And, I mean, like, really busy to the point we couldn't match up our schedules with anyone else. So we have one guest who you'll find out when Pride Month schedule's announced. But that's 3 weeks in. For now, next week we can announce we'll be discussing James Whale's queer classic, Frankenstein.
Yes. I'm so surprised we haven't spoken about it before.
I know.
Obviously, a classic.
Yes.
The genre.
Written by the bisexual Mary Shelley as well. So there's a lot to discuss.
There we go.
And next month's original versus remake, it's going to be a teary one. We are doing a adaptation versus adaptation for Taichi Yamada's Strangers.
Ooh.
So that means we are discussing the Discarnates and all of us strangers.
Nice.
Prepare yourselves. Get your tissues at the ready.
For your tears.
Well, who knows? We'll be back same time, same place next week.
Bye.